where a title deed represents certainty, stability, access to finance, and much more. But there has been some controversy around this process, with the opposition initially calling for people to reject the title deeds. And we have Abdi Osman, who's standing by live in Mombasa to speak to the Cabinet Secretary Charity Ngilu on these issues and much more. Abdi, over to you.
Thank you, Julie. A cool, breezy evening at the Sarova White Sands Beach Resort and Spa. But nonetheless, in the hot seat, Cabinet Secretary for Lands, Housing and Urban Development, Charity Ngilu. Welcome to Sunday Live. I know it's been a busy few days for you. Let's get straight to the recent happenings. Issuance of title deeds in the Tana River County, Lamu County, Mombasa County, and most importantly, where it all started in Kilifi County. How's the progress been so far?
Thank you so much, and good evening to you. Good evening to you, Abdi. Yes, it started very well. Last Friday, we started with the Kilifi, and from Kilifi we came to Mombasa. From Mombasa yesterday, we went to Lamu, Pate Island in particular, and from there we went to Tana River County, and tomorrow we are going to go to Kwale and go to Taita Taveta County. That will mean that we have covered all the 6 counties of the coastal region.
So how many title deeds should we expect to see issued? Because you issued about 19,000, it's targets of 19,000, but how many have so far been issued?
We have issued during the short time when we visited those places, we could not issue all of them, but we have left all these titles on the ground. And with the leaders that we have been having meetings with, we have agreed that they are going to actually deliver them to the people. Sometimes it's very difficult, even for those people who know that we are giving them a title deed, to come for it, because they are just very vast, distances for them to travel in order to get the title deeds.
Madam Cabinet Secretary, we've had the sound bites, the excitement by the local leaders. They were skeptical at first. They fully back this now. Most importantly, we've had the locals themselves say, thank God we finally have title deeds. But they're also saying you're playing politics. This is politics 2017 in mind.
Yes, first and foremost, let me say that Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development is going to do its work. And for sure, I want to promise Kenyans that it is not going to be business as usual, that Kenyans' lives can be played with in form of politicking with Kenyans' lives. Because 50 years ago, Kenyans were told in 4 years, 5 years, we are going to issue with title deeds. 50 years since that time, we have only been able to issue 20% of title deeds to Kenyans. Out of 8.9 today million households, just about 20% of these have title deeds.
Bring our viewers on board.
You can therefore imagine that as long as people do not have title deeds, they cannot use this as a factor of production, get them out of poverty, empower themselves, and therefore this is not something that people should see as, playing politics, if you want to say. But let me also say here that each party always has a manifesto, and you need to look at each party's manifesto, what they say they were going to do. I know that when people were campaigning in the coastal region, the thing they talked about, and people said, we need our title deeds. We need to know whether we own land or not. As long as you do not have a title deed, then it means that you are not entitled to that land. And anybody can come and just remove you and take over your land.
Your critics, and let's pick one in particular, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, he says that's the work of the National Land Commission. What's your take on that?
Let me say that my Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, will do our work. And today, we need to stop playing politics with the lives of people. And since they said that is the work of clerical officers, if then President Uhuru Kenyatta had to come down to the villages to give title deeds and especially to that old man who must have waited for the last 50 years, then I'm very pleased that President Uhuru Kenyatta can actually give these titles with his deputy.
How bad is the problem across the country? We know it's really bad at the coast, all the way from the days of the Sultanate taking over the coastal strip, the Portuguese foreigners leasing huge tracts of land. How bad is the problem? Because we're being told some of the titles are from the 60s and 80s.
It is very bad indeed. I can tell Kenyans that, and we all know that, because the poor in the society have never accessed title deeds, and therefore the stronger in the society have had access to land in large chunks, some of it not even being used, but being kept for speculation. And now I'm saying that we must bring an end to this.
You're dealing with a coastal problem.
And I'm dealing with a coastal, yes.
What about the rest of the country? They're waiting. They're hoping. Timelines?
In the next 5 years, my target and the Jubilee government target is to issue 2.5 million title deeds to 3 million. That is the target. And it is not difficult to achieve. We just need to roll out. We need to ensure that everybody participates in this exercise. We need to see people coming out and wanting to do it. We are also, of course, looking at the problem that has happened over the years, do a land audit to even know who owns land where. What is this land being used for? I can tell you today from where I'm sitting, if somebody has taken land for the purposes of speculation, is trying now to subdivide so that they can sell, I want to tell you that that person will not have a chance to do so.
Tough talk and a tough promise. The other tough question in the room, the issue of Lamu, a multi-trillion shillings port coming up.
Yes.
Speculators have rushed there. A problem coming to the fore yesterday during your tour of Pate Island, of about 1 million acres in the hands of just about 100 people.
Yes.
How do you intend to address that problem? How are you probing it?
What I'm saying is that I must immediately put audit in place. I am going to audit. I'm looking at all our registries. I'm going to know who owns land where. And if you own land that you have no idea what you want to do with that land, for sure it will revert to the government, because that is what it's supposed to do. And then give people who deserve land immediately. And they get also people to use land the way it's supposed to be used, productively, get people out of poverty.
3 years ago, Madam Cabinet Secretary, Kenyans promulgated a new constitution. We have it in place, a vibrant role for the National Land Commission. They're also saying we're not giving the National Land Commission the energy, the powers to really get down to business, including underfunding, as some sources put it, at about 5% of the budget they say they require. How are you addressing that? And still on the same, maybe your relations with the National Land Commission and Mr. Swazuri is the chairman.
May I just say that once goals have been set and the clear goals have been set, targets have been set, people need to move to achieving that. And I have come as a new cabinet secretary in the Ministry of Lands, and I want to achieve certain goals. And therefore, everybody who is in office should also set goals and say, this is what I want to achieve. This is how I want to achieve it. And therefore, I do not want to be derailed.
Are your relations good enough?
I would like to see that each one of us follow the Jubilee Manifesto.
Completely.
It is the clear Bible, if you want to call it, to say this is the direction we want to go.
Are you giving them the basics? Because there was a time they were told to actually leave, for instance, Abbey House.
No. The Afia House is so small.
Abbey House.
Abbey House is very small, and therefore we have a building next door, and usually it's good to house them just next to us.
Could
But
you
they
get
are
that
not
clear? We really have so many issues to tackle, including another hot one here at the coast, the land, Waitiki Farm. How are you addressing that? Because that's a really hot
I have been there. I have had many meetings with Waitiki himself. We have agreed on how we are going to solve that problem, how we are going to get him out and leave the land for those people who are already settling there. And that is not the only one. There is another piece of land somewhere also within the coastal area, and several others that have actually been invaded, and we are dealing with that very well.
The issue of foreign owners, talking of invasion, squatters moving in hordes like swarms of locusts that are now taking over land, like the farm of Basil Criticus, whose lease has expired. The National Land Commission told them to deposit their titles. We've seen so many foreign leases expire. That's another developing front. What's the progress in addressing that?
I would like to say that any lease that has expired, we will again look at what they're using the land for. We cannot just get out investors from this country. Those who want to come and invest in this country will be given land to invest and to ensure that they can also create wealth in the country. Provided land is being used properly, those people will own land.
Promise indeed. And finally, if we have such a huge backlog from the 60s and 80s, how then will the young Kenyans who intend to own land get the problem addressed? Have we gotten rid of the corruption cartels the president has been referring to in Ardhi House? And how do you intend to address that?
Yes, as I said, that it's true, the cartels, and they are big cartels. And they are not just within the Ministry of Lands. In fact, what you may not know is that we have 13th floor of the Ministry of Lands. And that's where a lot of business is carried out. However...
Shady business, that's it.
Yes, that's shady businesses. But we are now going to digitize and computerize the whole system of issuing title deeds, of knowing who owns land. Sometimes people have come to that ministry to look for information on their land for 30 years. I have seen it myself. So we are going now to computerize. As you know, we have now migrated from the usual green card, where you are going to search to check on your land, now to the new way of checking on your land, and you have put it in you will have even to check it on your mobile, because we are now migrating.
I will not leave our interview. Thank you very much. And
yes.
I'll not leave this interview without referring to the Ngilu Commission report and several other reports, including the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission report.
Yes.
Land playing a major role in acres of print space there.
Yes.
Do you intend to revisit those reports?
I intend to look at them very objectively and see where I can use any information that is in there. And I also want to share to Kenyans, there are many people who, since I sat in that office, have come forward to say that we want to give you this land. Please give it to the people. I've also now
in
seen...
which parts of the country, for instance?
A lot of will, even here in the coast and other places, and they say, we would like you to take this land and give it to landless. And I find that real goodwill. And as I said, it's about the current political goodwill that I'm going to ride on to ensure that I can just issue these titles. More resources have been given to me, by the way. I want you to know that I already have in the budget 1 billion Kenya shillings to do the national spatial data infrastructure, so that people know where the land is, what is being used for, who owns it. And you know, this has been the myth that people have never wanted to make it known.
How will you protect Kenyans, before I forget, on the very crucial issue of somebody saying we'll give maybe Qataris or people from the Middle East 10,000 acres to plant sugarcane? Roadside declarations. How do you intend to ensure that policy is respected by all and sundry, including political leaders?
No. If you want to give Qatar, there are ways of doing it. There are people coming forward and saying that, could we lease from the government 10,000, 100,000 acres of land to do the following for so many years? This is the benefit that is going to bring to the country, to the nation, and therefore that is something that is not going to be done on the roadside. It has got to be systematic, strategic, it has got to be beneficial, and therefore that will be done.
Indeed. Thank you, Madam Cabinet Secretary. So much more to be discussed, so much to be heard from you, hopefully in the next few days. She will be heading all the way to Matuga tomorrow with the President and his entourage, and later on to Voi,
yes,
where you'll be issuing
yes,
that. We wish you all the best,
yes,
as you do
yes,
that, but your work is clearly cut out. And on behalf of the Sunday Live team, I wish to thank you for granting us that interview. Julius, you've heard very clearly there, the intention is there, the will is there. She says this is a purpose-driven administration. Never mind the criticism of playing politics. They say it's not playing politics. And capacity, they say they'll fix that.
Capacity.
Yes. And she says it's not playing politics. It's actually problem-solving, not politics at play. Back to you for the rest of our news bulletin. We'll keep you posted on stories as they develop at the coast.
Thank you so much, Abdi Osman, for keeping us all updated. Of course, a very serious matter, land.